I'm Ciara Whelan and you're welcome once again to Ireland County by County, the programme which explores the sights and sounds, the places to visit, the culture and the food of our country. This time we're venturing off the beaten track to a county where time stands still, with idyllic castles, ancient ruins and beautiful boglands. In the next 30 minutes, I'll be learning about a wide range of multi-award winning whiskies and their production. Hearing the fascinating story about a monastery nestled against the River Shannon, first established in the 6th century. Exploring the wonderful past of the small town of Moneygall, birthplace to the third great-grandfather of the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. All this amidst the gentle heights of the Slieve Bloom Mountains and the easy rambling River Shannon. Welcome to County Offaly. Starting my journey around Offaly, I'm making my first stop in the middle of its lovely and lively county town, Tullamore. Thriving with business and bustling with energy, Tullamore acts as a gateway into the Midlands of Ireland. It has many attractions, like a 200-year-old Gothic Revival church and one of Ireland's most challenging golf courses, Esker Hills. Along with all this, it is also the home of world-famous Tullamore Dew whisky. Tullamore is the county town of County Offaly, and you couldn't possibly mention it without talking about their world-famous export, Tullamore Dew. They've been distilling whisky here since 1829, and I'm here to chat to John about the secrets of their success. John, every day is a school day, and I think the biggest lesson I'll have learned from my trip to Offaly is the fact that it's not just Tullamore Dew, like drop of water, it's initials. Who was DEW?
Daniel Edmund Williams. And Daniel Williams started as a stable boy in the distillery back in 1862. By 1873, he was 25 years old and he became the general manager. And he, a few years later, bought the business from the Daly family and set up the brand Tullamore Dew. And he didn't want the big initials, he wanted the small letters, DEW, because it had that romance about the word, the dew on the grass. It sounded wonderful.
What about the cooperage then? What happens in there?
We have this wonderful cooperage on site, and essentially these coopers are there to repair casks. Sometimes they need to take the hooks off completely, replace staves, they need to fix any leaks around the edges, and they can do all of that with reeds. There are no nails or anything in these casks. This is all wood that has been sealed together by their natural shape.
What makes Tullamore Dew so unique?
It's what we call a triple blend, so a blend of 3 different styles of whiskies. In the world, there are 3 different styles of whiskies made, you could say. Single grain whiskey, single malt whiskey, and single pot still whiskey. Pot still whiskey is made in Ireland particularly. It's really an Irish thing. It's unique. It's a blend of all 3 styles, all triple distilled, using 3 different wood types.
And as well as that, everything happens right here on site, doesn't it?
The barley gets milled here on site, made into a coarse flour. Then we add hot water. We make it into a kind of a porridge. We then add yeast to that porridge. We add the yeast, and that yeast ferments. We distill it 3 different times to make a triple distilled whiskey. We then take that whiskey and we put it into casks. From the US, ex-bourbon casks are amazing, made with American white oak. They give us amazing quality whiskey through the maturation process. We'll ship them to the harbors of New York or Shanghai or San Francisco, and that whiskey has gone from being a grain of barley coming in our gate to being a glass of whiskey going out the door.
Waving Tullamore goodbye, I'm making my next stop at the spectacular Clara Bog Nature Reserve in the north of the county. Covering 1,147 acres, Clara Bog is one of the best remaining examples of a relatively intact raised bog that covered Ireland after the last ice age. Now forming 50% of all raised bogs in northwest Europe, Clara Bog is a true treasure, providing a clear picture of what Ireland looked like to early settlers on the island. And with its award-winning visitor centre, Clara Bog should appear on everyone's to-see list in Offaly. With so little of Ireland's bogs surviving and intact, and so much of that here at the Clara Bog Nature Reserve, it's no wonder that the views here are unlike anywhere else in the world. The sprawling reddy brown of the bog across the landscape, with glistening patches of water, will stick in the memory of any visitor. With its 464 hectares, Clara Bog Nature Reserve is a must-see, with their award-winning visitor centre and their looped boardwalk. I'm here to chat to Enda to find out exactly what is a bog. Enda, first things first, what is a bog?
Bog, Ciara, is 10,000 years of history. So when you set foot on the bog, you're setting foot in a very, very old habitat that has its foundations at the end of the last ice age. As the ice age was ending, the temperatures were increasing, the glaciers were melting. So as they retreated, they left behind shallow lakes across the Midlands generally. And in those lakes, vegetation grew and the vegetation died, and that process happened again and again over thousands of years.
So it's dead matter, but it's very much alive.
Because the plant matter doesn't fully decompose and rot, it actually retains carbon. And so that's why now Clara Bog is being retained, and other bogs around the country are being re-wetted and re-preserved. You know, they're a major tool in the fight against climate change.
I love the fact that people can visit with the boardwalk, which is just incredible. What can they see when they do come?
It's a haven for ground nesting birds such as the very endangered curlew. You have other birds like the snipe, the skylark, the meadow pipit. There are insect-eating plants on the bog, carnivorous plants on the bog. We have the 3 different types of the sundew, the butterwort and the bog bladders, which are all plants that have adapted to surviving on a very, very nutrient-poor conditions here in the bog. And Clara Bog is actually, in fact, one of the best examples of an intact bog in the whole of Europe. We're very lucky to have it here in the Midlands.
I'm meeting internationally renowned wildlife photographer Tina Claffey, who specialises in photographing Ireland's bogs and wetlands as never seen before. Tina, when people hear that I'm coming to see a famous Irish photographer, they probably expect me to be knocking on the door of a studio, but that couldn't be further from who you are. How did you get into photography in the first place?
I went to art college and I thought I was going to be a painter initially. I ended up doing photography. It was pre-digital, so I was developing my own film and prints, and I was hooked immediately. And then I had the amazing experience of going to Africa. I was in Botswana, immersed in the wilderness there.
So what type of things are we seeing in the bog?
It's incredible. What we're walking on here is a living carpet. But when you do come first, you're like, what actually is here? But when you get down really close and have a really good look, there's so many species that are absolutely endemic to the bog that you won't find anywhere else. That includes sphagnum mosses, and sphagnum mosses are the building blocks of our bogs. It just fascinates me. So I've been photographing within the bog for almost 10 years now. And I'm still excited every time I come here.
What does an average day look like when you're here?
Every day is different, every season is different. We're in midsummer now and it's all at its peak now. Everything is buzzing, the bog is humming.
Did you appreciate the bog when you were a kid?
I only associated the bog as being really a barren wasteland, but I really couldn't have been more wrong. I went on a walk with botanist John Feehan, and he handed us a magnifying glass and he revealed to me the wilderness that was right at my feet. For me it was fantastic because having spent so long in Africa, I felt very lost when I came back. I missed the wilderness, I missed the wild spaces, but we have it right here. Although the wilderness that is here is very small, it's just as important as the wilderness that I experienced in Africa.
I'm continuing my journey northwesterly towards the peaceful shores of the majestic River Shannon, where lies the ruins of the once mighty monastery Clonmacnoise. Founded in 544 by St. Ciaran, Clonmacnoise was one of the first monasteries in Ireland. Taking a key position by the Shannon, the influence and reputation of Clonmacnoise quickly spread around the country and across the seas into Europe. But with such power comes powerful enemies, and the monastery was frequently attacked throughout its history. Despite raids happening regularly, Clonmacnoise stood strong for over 1,000 years, until 1552 when an English garrison from Athlone looted and destroyed the monastery, leaving it in ruin. Yet these ruins aren't the only relics of St. Kieran's monks. Manuscripts like the Book of Duncow, the oldest manuscript in Irish, were written here. To learn more about Clonmacnoise's riveting story, I'm here to talk with Anthony. Anthony, there's not an Irish person who hasn't heard about Clonmacnoise. I think it's probably one of the first things we learn about in school. Why is this site so important?
Yeah, as you said, it's possibly the most important monastery in Ireland. It was founded in the 6th century by a monk called St. Kieran. He came here with 7 followers and he founded this monastery. Now, unfortunately, within a few months of his arrival, he died of a plague, but the monastery developed into the most important monastery in Ireland.
And what are the most important artefacts that people can see here?
I think it's hard to beat the High Cross. It's absolutely beautiful. And there are only a few picture crosses, like the Cross of the Scriptures, in Ireland. You know, there's about 70 or 80 crosses around Ireland, high crosses. And most of them are what you might describe as Celtic crosses. So they have lots of patterns and fretwork, but there's only a few that have pictures on them. And they believe that they're the work of a school of masons. And the few that we have around Ireland in Kells or in Monaster Boyce or here at Offaly, we think they came from that same school or perhaps even the same person. So it's amazing to have an item like that here in Clonmacnoise. It's huge.
And it wasn't always plain sailing around here either, was it?
It was plundered and raided on numerous occasions. Over 30 times it was raided by, I suppose, the Vikings, the Normans, but mostly other Irish themselves. But it always managed to pick itself up, build itself up and rebuild.
What do people love most when they come to visit?
The flat area that we're in, this is bogland. So you're coming up onto these eskers, these gravel ridges, and you're getting a beautiful view of the countryside. You're getting the River Shannon, you're getting the Shannon Callows all around you, those fields all based around you. So they love the view, they love taking in the air, they love the round tower, the high crosses.
Leaving the stunning and serene Clonmacnoise behind, I'm turning south to explore a castle in the Irish heritage town of Birr. With beautiful gardens holding an abundance of rare plants from around the world and a science centre that houses a telescope that was once the largest in the world, it is fair to say that Birr Castle is no ordinary place. Set on 50 hectares inside its striking walls, Birr Castle has been here since medieval times and has played a hugely important role in the county's history. It's been a centre of science, astronomy, engineering, and it's now famous for its award-winning gardens. As well as all that though, it's still a family home. Let's chat to local tour guide Colin to find out more. Colin, the Parsons family, they've been here for 14 generations.
The Parsons family have always been in residence here in the castle since 1620 up until today.
When was the castle built?
The castle was first built in 1620 by Sir Lawrence Parsons, and he built the main body of the castle that you see here behind me. And then the third Earl and Countess in the 1800s, they added on the 2 facades jutting out either side, and they also added an extra floor onto the top of the castle for good measure.
And the Parsons, they're a hugely scientific family.
The engineering began with the second Earl of Ross. He built the suspension bridge behind me here. The third Earl of Ross, his love for astronomy began at a young age, and he always wanted to build his own large telescope here in the castle domain. But of course, big telescopes cost big money, and he didn't quite have the funds until he married his very wealthy wife, Mary Field, the third Countess of Ross. Together they built the Great Telescope in 1845, and it was the largest telescope in the world for over 70 years. And many great discoveries were made with that telescope, such as the spiral nature of galaxies and several nebulae, such as the Crab Nebula.
So it's not operated, but it's still functional.
It was restored in 1995. There's a new mirror in it, and it's all hydraulically and electrically powered now, whereas it would have taken 16 men to move the telescope back in 1845.
Mary wasn't just financing her husband either, she had a hobby of her own.
She was a pioneering photographer, very interested in landscape photography and portraits of her family and portraits of the different goings-on in the domain. And she actually built one of the first darkrooms in Ireland, which she used to develop her photographs. Her darkroom was actually only rediscovered here in the castle in 1984. All of the artefacts were painstakingly brought over to the Science Centre, and you can view all of those original artefacts now in our museum.
I love the story of Sir Charles gate crashing the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Victoria. Tell me about that.
He was the youngest son of the 3rd Earl of Ross, and like his grandfather, he was an avid engineer. But Sir Charles went on to invent the compound steam turbine, which revolutionised marine transport. It allowed ships to travel faster and farther than ever before. He tried to sell them to the British Navy to power their fleet of ships, but the British Navy turned him down. They thought their turbines were good enough. So, as you do, he decided to build his own ship and gate-crashed Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. At this Jubilee, the entire British Navy lined out their fleet of ships. Charles came along in his little ship called the Turbinia. The other Navy ships tried to catch up with him, but they couldn't because he was too fast. So as a result, the British Navy placed a large order for his turbines, and Queen Victoria gave him a knighthood on top of it. So it worked out for him in the end.
Just up the road from Birr is another historic castle open to visitors. Nestled in the foothills of the Slieve Bloom Mountains, this is Castle Bernard, or Kinnedy Castle as it's also known. It's a 19th century Gothic revival castle, and the history here is vast. Nowadays though, it's a hotel, and if you're looking for that genuine castle experience, you